Welcome to Martial Arts and Medu Netter, your host, Baron Cope. I'm sure that you have seen my martial arts videos. However, half of this channel is dedicated to Medu Netter, or the ancient African antiquities of Kemet and Nubia. What's the connection? I think I'm going to talk about that right now. The first documented martial arts system in the world was found in Africa, in Kemet, Egypt, ancient Egypt, and Nubia, by the Blue Nile and the White Nile. Okay, this is a fact. Most people who are interested and can do research have already discovered this. There's a lot of different research on the internet. This was exposed almost 20 years ago by an architecture engineer who was in Egypt, and he wrote a book on architecture, and he included the images of the Beni Hassan temple, where there were walls and walls of depictions of Africans doing different martial arts, from stick arts to wrestling to kicking and punching, boxing, spear, and even military arts. Okay, this was the earliest or the oldest documented martial arts systems in the world. Now, some people will talk about, well, Chinese had really old martial arts system, and there were martial arts systems in India. Okay, let's get this straight right now. So listen up. I went to school for time science. I went to school studying earth science and geology. I am a time person. My minor was anthropology. I'm a time person. So 20 years ago, I was investigating who had the oldest, what culture had the oldest records. Now, let's get this straight. Greece goes back to about 1400 BC, where they have records, but they're very scant. Most of their records are done in 800 BC, are histories of what happened at 1200 BC, and they're vague and they're very mythological. But that's our best records of Aegean culture. Greece and the islands is not that old. China's records go back to the oracle bone, and that's around 1400 BC, where they scratched their first writings on bones. But their official records are hundreds of years later. So China starts to have official documentation, dynasties around 1200, 1100 BC. India, on the other hand, they write in Sanskrit. And the oldest Sanskrit that you can find can be dated back to around 1400 BC. So India does not have records. They may have had martial arts, but they have no records of it. And China has no records of it. I know it's in the mind of American minds, they go like, oh yeah, well, China has ancient records. Well, they not really. I don't call 1000 BC, to me, is not ancient. The ancient Africans have records that start at around 3500 BC. Twice as old. So we got to get that in our head. Ancient Africa, Kemet and Nubian writing goes back to from 30,000 to 3,500 BC. They are writing, they have written documentation of their martial arts systems. That's stick fighting, wrestling, boxing, and other forms of martial arts. They have documentation, walls of depictions of men fighting and wrestling and doing martial arts sports. Okay, so this is done in the beginning, over 3000 BC. That's over 5,000 years ago. No one in the world is writing. So we got to get that in our head, that the earliest writing was done in Africa. And it was done 1,000 years before the Greeks started writing. 1,000 years before it. And 1,000 years before the Chinese, and 1,000 years before the Indians. So I'm not saying that China did not have martial arts, but it's not documented. We don't know. There's nothing in writing, and there's no pictures, there's no graphics. In Africa, they have complete documentation of several martial arts systems that existed at 3000 BC. So if you just do the research, get on the internet, look up Beni Hassan Temple or Beni Hassan site in ancient Egypt, Beni Hassan, and you will see several systems of martial arts being documented. Some of them are really cool, some are with spears, some of them are several different types of stick art games or martial art games. You have boxing, you have various forms of Nubian wrestling, and these things are going to be eventually be adapted by Greeks, Hebrews, even Indians. Many of the through cultural diffusion, many of the ideas, techniques moved out of Africa and into Asia and into Europe, obviously. Remember, the cat was domesticated in Egypt. We find the cat everywhere. The cat moved to China, went to England, and with the cat moved ideas of culture and arts. It is my theory that the martial arts systems that even moved to Asia migrated from Africa through a series of temples, religious temples. There's the Solomon Temple. In Persia, there's the Shalmaneser Temple. In China, there's the Sulam Temple and the Shaolin Temple. In Japan, there's the Shorinji Temple. In Okinawa, and in Japan, there's the Shorin-ryu. All of these words linguistically are connected. There's Solomon Temple, Shalmaneser Temple, Sulam Temple, Shaolin Temple, Shorinji Temple, and Shorin-ryu. Okay, all of these words are connected linguistically, and they move from the west to the east. So that's my theory, but that takes more research to confirm that. Okay, enough for now. Until next time, Hotel.